In 1963, two of the most powerful journalists in Washington, D.C., Robert Allen and Paul Scott, noticed something strange. Their scoops were drying up. Their sources were terrified. What they didn't know was that their every word, private calls to their wives, tips from whistleblowers, dinner plans was being recorded by the CIA. This wasn't a foreign embassy. This was domestic soil. This was Project Mockingbird. How does an agency legally barred from domestic spying justify wiretapping the press? Today at Broken Shield, the Accountability Project, we look at the declassified files that prove the Fourth Amendment has a blind spot when national security is used as a shield. The story goes that in 1973, new CIA Director James Schlesinger was horrified by whispers of the agency's past actions. He ordered a comprehensive internal report on all potentially illegal activities the CIA had ever conducted. This collection of documents became known internally as the Family Jewels, and buried deep within its pages was the confirmation of Project Mockingbird. The files revealed that the CIA's Office of Security had completely bypassed the FBI, the agency with actual domestic jurisdiction, to install illegal wiretaps on the phones of journalists. What was their justification? They claimed they were simply trying to identify the source of leaks involving highly classified information. In their view, the press wasn't a protected institution, a pillar of democracy, but a security leak that needed to be plugged. The journalists weren't citizens exercising their First Amendment rights. They were threats. This shift in perspective is crucial because it is what allowed them to rationalize, stepping far outside their legal boundaries. They saw a problem and decided to solve it themselves, regardless of the law. And this brings us to the core legal breach. The Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution is crystal clear. It protects citizens against unreasonable searches and seizures and states that no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause. For a warrant to be granted, law enforcement must convince a judge that a crime has likely been committed. But in the case of Allen and Scott, there was no warrant. There was no judge. There was no judicial oversight whatsoever. The CIA operated under a self-authorized directive, essentially giving itself permission to break the law. They acted as their own judge, jury, and surveillance team. Now, think about this for a second. Let's consider the Sixth Amendment, which guarantees the right to a fair trial. If these journalists had ever been charged with a crime based on evidence gathered from these illegal wiretaps, the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine would come into play. This legal principle states that any evidence obtained illegally is inadmissible in court. The case would have been thrown out immediately, but here's the catch. The CIA wasn't trying to build a legal case. They were gathering intelligence. Because of this distinction, the victims, Allen and Scott, had no idea they were being searched for decades. They had no opportunity to challenge the surveillance because they didn't know it was happening. This is the accountability gap. When an agency operates in the shadows without oversight, constitutional protections can become meaningless. But the wiretapping of Allen and Scott was just one facet of Project Mockingbird. The broader operation was far more insidious. We need to distinguish between the direct surveillance of specific journalists and the alleged recruitment of others as assets. Declassified memos and whistleblower testimonies suggest the CIA didn't just listen to the press. They sought to use it. They allegedly had assets inside major newsrooms, reporters, editors, and foreign correspondents who could plant stories favorable to the agency's agenda or feed them information. This wasn't about plugging leaks. It was about controlling the narrative. This creates a terrifying conflict of interest. The press is supposed to be the fourth estate, a watchdog that holds power accountable. But when journalists become extensions of the state, who is left to hold the state accountable? This creates a feedback loop where the public is fed facts and perspectives manufactured by the very agencies they are supposed to be overseeing. Information stops being a tool for public enlightenment and becomes a weapon of influence. The line between journalism and propaganda becomes dangerously blurred, and the public's trust in the media is fundamentally eroded. Project Mockingbird isn't just a Cold War relic, a dusty chapter from a spy novel. Its legacy casts a long shadow over modern surveillance practices. The methods and justifications used then set a precedent for what is known today as parallel construction. This is a controversial law enforcement process where intelligence is first gathered through illegal or secretive means, like warrantless surveillance. Then authorities use that information to refine the evidence through conventional legal means, effectively creating a clean, parallel chain of evidence to use in court. This process effectively launders illegally obtained information, hiding its original, tainted source from the courts and the defense. The tactics may have evolved from clunky wiretaps to sophisticated digital surveillance, but the core principle remains dangerously similar. The Accountability Project isn't just about finding the truth. It's about ensuring the process of finding it follows the law. It's about demanding transparency and oversight for the agencies tasked with protecting us. Because if the shield, that is our Constitution, is broken, if the rules designed to protect our rights can be ignored in the name of security, then the citizen is left defenseless. The only way to guard against this is to stay informed. You can read the Family Jewels report for yourself. Thank you for watching Broken Shield, the Accountability Project. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Stay vigilant.